And we are live. Welcome, mystery and thriller fans. I'm your on-air host, Sara DiVello, and I am so excited to host the incredible Kate White today, here to give us the scoop about her brand new, red hot new book, The Fiancee. Kate, welcome to Mystery and Thriller Mavens. Tell us about this book.
Oh, Sarah, so good to be here. Well, in some ways, it's a little bit of like a country house or locked room mystery in that it all takes place in the same location, a bucolic estate out in Bucks County, Pennsylvania. And it's a family, a pretty affluent family, two parents in their 70s, four adult sons, three, it sounds like a Christmas song, three wives and one newcomer. And it's a little bit weird when she arrives because there's a real ecosystem established. And before long, things go horribly awry. Someone ends up dead in the family. And what makes it different from classic locked room mysteries where people are suddenly in a panic that someone's died and they wonder, am I going to be next? Only Summer, the protagonist, suspects that what has been classified as a natural cause death is not, and that they are in danger. So she's got to make other people understand this, even as she researches and tries to dig into what could have happened.
Oh my goodness. Well, you hooked me from page one, Kate. From page one, I just was eating my popcorn, devouring every page. I had to know what happened. I had to know more. And I want to get into every single detail of it. But first, I just want to welcome all of our friends who are watching on Facebook, all of our friends who are watching on YouTube. Welcome, everybody. If you've been here before, you know how this works. And if you're new, welcome. We're so happy to have you. Here's how it works. Every week, I handpick featured authors to present to you, and you get to ask them anything. This is your time. This is a collaborative, inclusive conversation. So any questions that you have for Kate about her writing practice, about her book, about the family ecosystem, I know I got questions about that. There's so much to chat about here. Get your questions going in the comments, and I'll get them right over to Kate. I see Leslie is saying hello from Canada. Leslie, welcome. So great to have you. As always, top community member there, taking us international. That's the way we like to roll.
So yeah, and I was so thrilled, Sarah. They did a nice Canadian printing of the book. So thank you, Leslie. I'm so glad you showed up today.
Yay! Welcome, Leslie. And Sylvia is saying hello from Omaha. This is the one good thing about the pandemic. We get to log on from everywhere, and we're all united in our love of books and our love of reading and our love of mystery and thrillers. And we get to have people from Canada, from Omaha. Tell us. Oh, we're getting hearts up on Facebook. Thanks, guys. Tell us where you're watching from. Leslie says, thank you, Kate, for this book. Guys, let us know what questions, ladies and gentlemen, let us know what questions you have for Kate. I'll kick off. It always takes me a minute. So just go ahead and get your questions going in the comment box. I'll get them right over to her. So Kate, I have so many questions. So as a Philly girl here, my college roommate was from Bucks County. So I was devouring this. I was like, oh my gosh, the Keatons, who is this family? I've got to know. So first of all, why Bucks County? I've got to know that.
Well, my husband and I have a weekend home there, and there are a fair number of New Yorkers who have done that. And we picked it in part because my fabulous stepson, when he was a little boy, he used to fly in every other weekend to Newark and up on the way. And he has a lot of fondness for our place there, and as do the two kids we had together. So what I did with this farmhouse we have with the barn is I just kind of put it on steroids in my mind and turned it into a big estate and imagined this super affluent family, the Keatons, and what their life would be like there. And it's particularly nice because the matriarch, Claire, is a landscape designer, and she has just designed the hell out of it. And I hope that there were some ominous things too, just about like one of the the field she's designed, it has kind of a maze-like quality. And I just wanted readers to sort of feel a little bit, hey, it's nice, but there are a few little red flags here, a little sense of foreboding with the woods and
Mm.
the paths and things like that.
The woods, the path, and the flora and fauna. So we've got a Kai wolf. I hope I'm saying that right. Kai wolf on the loose.
Koi wolf.
Koi wolf. Okay. Which is, I learned in the book, a cross between.
Kai wolf, absolutely, yeah.
Which I learned in the book, is a cross between a coyote and a wolf. They interbreed. So we've got a koi wolf or a Kai wolf on the loose, maybe, prowling around outside at night. We have, and I'm an urban gardener too. I have a little tiny city garden in the city. And as someone who grows, grows vegetables, pots of vegetables and flowers, anybody else a gardener in the audience, let me know in the comments. I loved that Claire was a landscaper. I loved her reverence and deep love for flowers. And I was fascinated to learn that some are poisonous, Kate. And indeed, maybe that could be a murder weapon. I loved how you did that. Why did you weave in these poisonous flowers? And I didn't even know that foxgloves were poisonous.
Well, when I was editing the Mystery Writers of America cookbook, I wanted to do some interesting sidebars. And I did one on foods that are poisonous. And in researching, and I talked to a poison expert who talked about certain flowers being poisonous, and we're not even conscious of that sometimes when we're gardening. And you're probably not going to eat a flower from your garden, but a little kid might. And one of the really interesting things about poisonous flowers, and there's also things like water hemlock is poisonous, is that they're not detected in tox screens when someone is taken to an ER. People always think, well, they'll do a tox screen and they'll find out what killed somebody. But tox screens test for nicotine, any kind of cocaine, alcohol, those sorts of things. They don't test for weird stuff like what might be in your garden. And what was particularly interesting, this poison person told me, you could really throw a pathologist off the track if you mixed a couple of things like that, because then you've got a bunch of weird symptoms that happen, everything from, of course, nausea and stomach cramps and then the heart stopping. So I first got interested in that when I was doing Mystery Writers of America cookbook. And I always wanted to kind of bring that in to a mystery. And I did.
Oh my God. Okay. Who else is loving this conversation? I am a passionate cook. I'm an Italian woman. I am compelled to cook. I'm compelled to feed you. So I am a passionate cook. And I had never considered food as a means of murder. Kate, you are hooking us once again. Leslie saying that is a great cookbook. Beverly, welcome, saying I love Kate White. Oh, yay, Kate, so many fans here. This is wonderful. Sylvia saying we garden for the birds and the butterflies. Okay, so Sylvia's a gentle gardener, serving the birds and the butterflies. Kate's over here cooking up a murder stew. I love it. She's saying milkweed in the front for the monarchs, dills out back for the swallowtails, also hundreds of sunflowers for the goldfish. Okay, we're coming to Sylvia's house, and then maybe Kate can give us a cooking demonstration on how to cook up a death, how to cook up a murder. I love this.
Sarah, there's always something you worry about when you write about a form of murder, that somebody's going to go, okay, I didn't know it was that easy. And you just hope that's not the case. Certainly back in the 1800s, poison was a very, very common form of murder, particularly for wives who were abused because they had no way out, and they would off their husbands by something like arsenic or using natural ingredients that they had learned could be deadly.
Wow, I did not know that. And it was interesting because at one point in the book, the characters are talking about the possibility of, of poison as a murder weapon. They're having a really cool conversation, and then someone says, "Well, isn't that sort of I think they use the word Machiavellian? Isn't that sort of outdated? Like that would never happen these days?" But Kate, you're letting us know that it is, and actually, Dr. Helen is saying that in Australia, she sat next to someone on a flight who was a medical examiner, and he said if he had to kill someone, he would use a plant. This is fascinating.
Yeah, because it's not something they're not going to detect for a flower, and they're certainly not going to detect for a combination of flowers if they think that it's natural causes. So it was interesting for me, and also just bringing in certain elements of nature that just from the start feel a little bit ominous. And
Indeed.
back to you mentioned the whole idea of the Kai wolf, or in where we are in Bucks County, there are coyotes, but some of them are thought to possibly be a mixture of wolves and coyotes that have intermarried, as we said. And the other day, it's funny because sometimes I base what I write on something I've experienced, but a few times, and this is really spooky, things I've written have sort of materialized. And the other day, sitting in my house and sort of staring out the window, I was pretty sure a coyote walked by. I thought, well, that's really weird considering I just wrote about it, and it was big, and it looked nasty.
How big was it?
It was big. It was big. And we have bears there too, and foxes. So we're used to a fair amount of wildlife, but coyotes have just started to appear there. And
Wow, I had no idea. In Bucks County. So, for those who aren't familiar with Bucks County, this is right outside of Philadelphia, a huge city on the northeast coast of the states of the United States. And my college roommate was from Bucks County. I went to college in Philadelphia, and I never saw any of these wildlife. So this is, I'm like, my mind is blown right now. This is crazy.
I don't know if they've worked their way into Philly yet, Sarah. There, north of there, you definitely find them. I mean, the biggest shock is to see a bear on your property. But I didn't work any bears into the Fiancee. I thought there was enough going on. I'll leave the bears out of it.
Yeah, exactly. If I'm ever down at Gino's and Pat's getting a cheesesteak and I see a Kai wolf walking by, I'll know who to blame. It's Kate White.
Yeah.
Leslie is saying they have Kai wolves here where she is in Canada. Wow, that's so cool. Emily is saying hello from Harrisburg. Emily, welcome. Great to have you. She said she did her student teaching in Doylestown, Bucks County. Of course, all the Philly girls in the house. Hey, girl.
That's Emily. That is not far from me. Doylestown is only about 25 minutes, and we shop there sometimes, and it's such a charming place.
Wow. Oh my gosh, this is crazy. I can't believe there are Kai wolves and coyotes just strolling around Kate's in suburban Philadelphia. This is crazy. Oh my gosh, Emily's saying she's seen coyotes in her suburban neighborhood in Harrisburg. Apparently, I'm just not paying attention and looking out the window enough. So questions for Kate. Something I wanted to ask Kate, you talked, and I liked how you used the word the family ecosystem. So right away, you ground us in this family, the Keatons. You ground us in the different roles that the family plays. There's Claire, the wonderful mother-in-law who's nourishing everyone with these beautiful meals. I just want to be a guest at Claire's house because the food sounds amazing, and she's so cool and easygoing. And then so you think, and then you see the interaction between Summer, the protagonist, and her interaction with her sister-in-law, which is such a fascinating thing because when you marry into a family, you really do marry that family, and you don't choose who the brothers marry, or do you? And you then have to navigate and hang out with these people, not only your brothers-in-law or sisters-in-law, but then their spouses. And so it was fascinating to see all of these moving parts and all of these very different couples, and then to bring in Hannah, possibly Hannah the hussy, we don't know yet. And to see everyone kind of like, we all have that, we all have had that experience, whether you're married or not, where someone in your friend group or family group starts dating someone new, and then you're like, yikes, please don't get married.
Right. Oh yes, that's so true. Yeah, and in fact, Sarah, what first gave me the idea for the book. And sometimes
Tell
I'll
us.
have an idea for a book that it's just, I literally take something from a news headline, and other times it's just a vague thought. And I think in this case, it really was the vague thought of, what happens if you interrupt the ecosystem of a family? And partly it's interrupted by the arrival of Hannah, the newcomer, who is possibly going to be the fiance.
Mm.
Also interrupted too, and I was really interested in exploring this, the idea of what happens when you are in a family that you think you know, either your
Mm.
own or one you married into, and you begin to discover certain secrets that you didn't know were there. And I think we've all had that experience where we discover something about one of our siblings or even our parents, a parent that turned out to be married before that you never noticed.
Mm.
And I like the idea of the ecosystem being interrupted, not just by the arrival of Hannah, but the secrets that Summer, as she tries to seek the truth, begins to discover about so many members of this charismatic family that she thought she knew.
Yes, yes, I love that. And you learn about Summer that she had, that she lost a sibling in her childhood, which put a sadness, a pall over her family of origin, and so she didn't have the happiest, lightest, funnest childhood because her, someone died, and so she's so warmly welcomed into the Keatons, and she's sort of drinking it in and drinking in Claire's nourishment and drinking. She's so happy and grateful for this, and it starts to become apparent, like, oh, what if Hannah really disrupts us and we all hate her? Go away, Hannah. But then also, ooh, this family's not what I thought it was. So what was this ripped from the headlines? Did you see something that inspired you, or was this just some thoughts, or where did this come from, Kate?
A vague sense of what if you have a family and the newcomer not only throws things off, but leads to the unraveling a bit of secrets that
Mm.
have been hidden. And the thing about Summer, as you said, she had grown up in a family of two loving parents, but they had lost a child before she was born. And as she says, it's almost like this tarp of sadness that's
Mm.
over her family. And though her parents did their best, that it was always sort of a little bit pervasive in her family. So the Keatons, who are this very charismatic, almost seductive family, as she says, they had me at, hey, hello, nice to meet you, come on in.
Come
And
on
so she is a little bit blind to it because
in.
it's so
Mm.
magical compared to what she and her sister had growing up. And
Yes,
and of course,
yes.
because there's four brothers, I grew up in a family with six kids, and there's something about having a bunch of kids
Yeah.
adds a certain energy to the family that
Mm.
you just don't get when there's only one or two. So as soon as the very fact that there's four sons creates a certain dynamic that is engaging for her right from the start.
Exactly. She's getting something that she wasn't able to get because her parents were heartbroken and sad, even though they were loving and took care of them. And so she loves it in a way that she starts to notice maybe her sisters-in-law don't love it the way that she is. Maybe they aren't as close to Claire. So it is fascinating how you unravel that. And I think you're exactly right. We all have had that experience. And it's the experience of peeking into this family, peeking into the Keatons, peeking into Summer. Summer's marriage and Summer's relationships that is so deliciously voyeuristic. I mean, I had to know more. So I love that part. Dana is saying there are definitely Kai Wolfs as far south as Massachusetts, but it wouldn't surprise me if they were much further south. Oh my God. I have literally never heard the term Kai Wolf before today. Now I'm hearing you guys are all hanging out with Kai Wolfs without me. This is so crazy. Sylvia's saying she lived in Percassie as a teen, not too far away from you. Kate there in Bucks County. Very cool. Sharon is saying better late than never. Hi from Minnesota. Sharon, welcome. Great to have you. Thanks for joining us from Minnesota. Another thing that I was really fascinated about is that Summer has a seemingly at first very glamorous life as an actress in New York. And she's got this great husband, this hottie husband, and she's got this very cool life. But then you start to see the struggle behind the scenes, that actually it's really hard to be a working actress trying to get it started, and feeling that envy of I think of Hannah being so much further down, seemingly so much further down the path. She's got a Netflix pilot, and Summer's just bitch doing her, her voiceover work. And I was thinking, you having had this incredibly glamorous and competitive career in magazines, is it like with Summer, things aren't as glamorous as they are behind the scenes, or was it indeed that fabulous being the editor of Cosmo?
I have to say, being the editor of Cosmo was as fabulous as I could have ever imagined. Every day was like being on a television show. I would have days where things like Pharrell Williams emailed one day, "Hey, I wrote a song based on Cosmo cover lines. Can I come over and have someone sing it to your staff? I'll bring the booze." I mean, that was a day in my life. And it was so much fun. But my husband, who was for many years a news anchor, after 9/11, he made the decision he'd been doing it for a while, doing it since he was pretty young, to decide to change course. And he had been a theater major, a joint theater major, broadcast journalism major in college. So he started acting in New York and doing theater. And I was exposed to a lot of the young actors that he met in productions. And we talked a lot about the struggle and how few of them make it. And one of the people who came to dinner one night at our house with the cast was Amy Schumer, and fabulous Amy Schumer. And she did make it, but so often you don't make it. It is not a business where the cream of the crop gets to the top. It's just not like that. In magazines, found people who were great writers got to the top. It wasn't something like you could be an incredible writer and nobody ever noticed. So what I try to do is kind of tap into some things I had learned from his career. And I also really tried to channel early feelings I had as a young magazine editor, where you see people advancing faster than you and you're wondering, am I ever going to get there? And so that's what Summer's dealing with. Her career seemed to take off in the beginning, but it stalled. And then she's got Hannah doing the Netflix pilot. And as she says, am I the only person on the freaking planet who's not shooting a Netflix pilot? And Hannah doesn't do anything to make Summer feel good. In fact, right from the start, and this is what makes Summer suspicious, she lies and says she's never met Summer, even though Summer remembers her from an acting showcase from 2 years ago. And that's the first thing that makes Summer think there's something rotten in Denmark, to quote a famous playwright.
Exactly. And she's also being a kiss ass to everybody in the family. Oh, Claire, you're incredible talent. Oh, Ash, can I play badminton? And it's just enraging Summer. Nobody likes a kiss ass, Hannah. But also it is, tapping into that feeling, because no matter what you're doing, no matter what your hustle is, no matter what your career is, no matter whether, what you're doing in life, you always see someone who seems to be doing better or seems to do it easier. And that feeling of trying to measure where you are and feeling envy and desire to be where that other person is something we can all relate to. I loved how you portrayed that so poignantly and painfully and clearly and sharply.
Yeah, and what I was tapping into, trying to channel, were the feelings I had when I was young and seeing people advance in a way that I was afraid of being left behind. It's even worse now with social media. And
yes.
the idea that people pump themselves up on social media, and you're not always seeing how their lives really are. You're just seeing the way they present things. And it's funny because somebody I worked with in my magazine business, sometimes I sort of know her struggles. And yet, if you looked at her social media, you would think it was the most glamorous thing in the world. And in some ways it's just so unfair to anyone who is trying to make it or struggling. They're not seeing the way it really is. And all careers are hard, all jobs are hard. And even though I say Cosmo was a fabulous job, there were plenty of days where you were struggling to deal with changes in the industry, or you felt awful for things some of your staff members were dealing with, or
Mm.
you did a lousy cover that month and the sales numbers came in, and the fabulous Jim from circulation would call up and say, Kate, the numbers are a little soft for October. And you're like, oh no, don't tell me that, Jim.
Jim, keep your bad news, keep your soft news to yourself. But that's so true. I actually just heard this thing on NPR about how we all know that, if you're looking at someone else's social media, you just feel worse and worse. Like, oh, that person's got like Summer's doing, Hannah's got the Netflix, everyone's got a Netflix pilot, and you just feel further and further behind and less successful in your life. So I just heard this thing on NPR a year ago that suggested that you look at your own social media, only your page, and you scroll back through it and you look for 15 minutes. And because each of us is only posting our own highlight reel, everyone felt better about themselves after watching their own social media, because they're like, you know what, my life does look pretty good because I'm doing it too.
Yeah, and then that's our mantra. I'm rocking it. Whoa, yeah, you go, girl. All that.
Exactly. Sharon is saying, sounds like being the editor-in-chief at Cosmo was a dream job for sure. Sylvia saying, what? Yes, Sylvia, Kate was the editor-in-chief, the EIC of Cosmo magazine. Any other Cosmo girls in the audience? Me. For 14 years, she's amazing. She's a legend and has since gone on to write 15 amazing thrillers. She's a New York Times bestselling author. Kate is the real deal. She's so cool. So yes, welcome. Okay, I'm just scrolling through, making sure I didn't miss any comments. Kate, let me ask you, what is your favorite scene in the book? Not giving anything away, but what's your favorite scene in the book and why?
Oh, that's a good question. There's a scene where it's a quiet scene,
Ooh.
but it's a scene where Summer walks into the kitchen to talk to her, and there's no lights on, and all of a sudden she finds her mother-in-law sitting in the near darkness, even because the blinds are pulled. And I love that scene because there's a sort of ominousness to it. It's the first time things really begin to unfold in a bad way. And there's a couple things her mother-in-law says to her that don't quite make sense. And she ends up just feeling a little weird about that at that moment. And it's just a quiet moment, but I always like things in plays or books or movies where it's not, you're not being hit over the head with the fact that things aren't going to be good, but that there's just something is not going to work out here. And I always love that moment. I love the idea of walking into a room and thinking it's empty, and then kind of being surprised the lights are off, but somebody's sitting there.
Yeah, oh, I love that. And I love that you like the quiet scene, that spoke to you the most. Was that also the hardest scene to write, or what was the hardest scene to write? Is the hardest one your favorite, or was another one hard?
For me, the hardest is always at the end when you've spent so much time on the book, and because you've worked out the ending completely. And I always plot the ending right from the beginning. I know how it's going to end, but just loosely. I don't know all the details. And so you've written the whole book in your head, but you still 2 chapters that you haven't written on your computer. And by then I'm kind of exhausted, and part of me wants to go, no. And I've already started to draft the idea for the next one. And I'm like, okay, I've got to stick the landing here. But I'm kind of spent. And I always feel those are the hardest to finish, even though it's exciting when you finish too, and you can finally type the words, the end.
Yeah. So did you, first of all, I love the turn of phrase, stick the landing for writing into the book. So did you stick the landing on a first draft, or did this ending take you many drafts? Or did it go through many iterations?
I've never been told to rewrite the ending by an editor. And I think it's because I really do try to have a very secure idea of where I'm going, that I do respect authors, and there are many of them in the genre that I'm in that are called pantsers, as you know, Sarah. They are pantsers. They do it by the seat of their pants. I can't do it that way. And I always recommend for first time authors, don't box yourself in the corner. You know, have an idea of where you're going. And so I always have a pretty firm idea, and no one's ever asked me to change it, but I think it's because I have thought it out a lot by the time I get there.
Oh, I love knowing that. And so interesting to know that you are a plotter. So for those in the audience who are new to this, there's basically two big groups of writers. There's the plotters, and they sit and they plan out rigorously, carefully, meticulously what is going to happen when, and then they write to that plan. Others are pantsers, woo, where they just see where the spirit takes them. They just go with the flow and see where the characters take them. This is fascinating to know that you are a plotter. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, and people I know, like Lisa Unger, the fabulous Lisa Unger, she's a pantser. She never knows where she's going until she gets there.
It's so fascinating to know how the creative process works. And Lisa has been on the show 3 times. Is coming back in October. I love her. She's so amazing. I tried to pants this novel, this one that I'm writing, and I swore I will not pants again. I will plot, because the pantsing has led me down.
Sarah, you're a plotter?
I will be now, Kate, because I learned my lesson the hard way, the hard, painful, gritty way, where I overwrote the length of 2 books, poor jerk, and now I got to back it up and cut 40% of the book, and it is so painful and so brutal that I swear, as you are all my witness, hold me to it. I am going to plot that next book like my life depends on it.
What do you think is the perfect number of pages?
So I like about a 300-page book. I like to really get in that book. I like a story. You know, I really like to immerse myself. I know some people are like, oh, I like a short read. No, I like to get in there, yum, 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 you know, and stay in that world when it's working for me. So I think, you know, I'd love to be around that. And that would be about 100,000 words.
And can I just ask, is the problem you had with pantsing is that you boxed yourself in a corner and then didn't know where to go?
You know what it is, Kate? I'm writing true crime for the first time, and I completely got myself in over my head. I had trying to write a true story, but also have some sort of narrative arc, keep the pace going, be true, honor these people because they're real people with real stories with real lives who made real choices, honor those choices, and also try to solve an unsolved case. I bit off more than I could chew, and next thing I knew, I had 180,000 words. I'm so embarrassed.
I'm sure you're wrestling it to the ground brilliantly, Sarah.
Oh, I love that. And I am going to wrestle that. I'm going to wrestle that alligator to the ground. Oh my gosh. Okay. Patricia says, forgive me, I always ask this, but what do you wish you would have known? This is a great question, Patricia. After your first book, the process is important and kicking my ass, LOL. What has surprised you in the writing world? So let's take this question, this 2-part question, one by one. So first of all, what do you wish you would have known after writing your first book, now 15 books later?
I would say I wish I had known that readers are not interested in the way you roll out of bed in the morning. That in my very early books, I probably spent too much time getting them from point A to point B. And there was a little bit of sex in my early books that I realized they're not interested in that in thrillers. And I think just faster, the pace just has to be incredible. You want to grab them from the very first page. But I would also say that's changed a bit since I started writing. My first book was published in 2005. that we are now, we're so consumed with the genre and consuming so much of it that we expect more. Each book has to, we want it to be faster. So I think it's not just that I learned that the whole business has changed since then. And because it's just like thrillers have gotten faster. So I think that was important to learn.
Ooh, fascinating. I'm fascinated by all of this. First of all, I'm so fascinated about what you said, that readers aren't interested in how you roll out of bed in the morning. So you're saying, and that also goes in with the fast pace. So it's getting faster and faster, but that's really what they're there for. Also, that you had more sex in your first books. Why? But mystery readers aren't interested in that so much, because there is a scene where Summer and her husband have an afternoon rendezvous, but it's not a long scene, and there's no sexy details.
Right. I think that they are fine with you indicating that that's going on somehow in the person's life, but they don't want the details. And they just, what I found is that they didn't mind it, but they just skipped over it because and maybe in a different genre, they would be interested in it. But for any kind of murder mystery or thriller, they're just there to get the crime, see the roundup of possible suspects, be there for the thrills, ride it through, and then know how it's all going to end. And don't get bother them with any kind of seduction.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I need that on a t-shirt. Don't bother me with any kind of seduction.
Yeah, that's right.
And you said that you've noticed the pace is increasing even more. So now, starting from 2005 to 2021, 16 years, 15 books, now it's even faster. I mean, can we get much faster? Can we tighten it up much more?
I don't know. I mean, when you go back and read like an Agatha Christie, sometimes there's not a body for I don't know how many pages, and that just wouldn't fly today. That you've got to be having that first page. Some people say even that first sentence needs to be almost a microcosm of what the book is, and hint at the excitement and the thrills that are and the sort of the question that's going to happen and be played out through the book. So if any aspiring authors need to know, really work on not just the first chapter, not just the first page, but that first sentence.
Ooh, this is fascinating. And I love your turn of phrase, calling it a microcosm. I had never thought of it that way. And I really love that.
Yeah, I saw this reference to a first line of a Dick Francis book. The men wore rubber masks. And wow, who would not want to keep reading? And in some ways, that's a microcosm for the book, so that the more you can think about that first sentence and how you're going to hook the reader so that they can't say no, particularly if they're only getting a first look of the book when they see it online and are deliberating whether to buy it. You want to be sure you've grabbed them.
Oh, I love that. Okay, this is really, really cool. Thank you so much. I'm just making sure that I didn't miss any questions. Oh wait, Leslie, I think I missed one of yours. She said having. It looks like she's correcting something that I may have missed that before. Leslie, if I missed yours, can you just type it again? I'm so sorry, I might have missed it. I don't see it here. Patricia's saying, thank you so much for answering her questions. Ooh, Sylvia would like to know, in your opinion, what is a novel that, quote, checks all of the boxes? Ooh, that's a tough question. Good question, Sylvia.
Oh, I just finished The Plot by Jean Corlitz, and I just thought that checked all the boxes. It's really got a fantastic twist, but not one like some books today where it's so crazy. I'm just like, please, you really expect me to believe that? And it's got great characterization and hooks me from the very beginning, and then delivers even beyond that. I thought it was fantastic.
Oh, cool. I haven't read that. So I hosted Jean in December about The Undoing, which in book form was called You Should Have Known. And she was great. So I haven't read The Plot yet. And now with your glowing recommendation, I will do that because, wow, that is high praise.
Yeah, I loved You Should Have Known, but
Yes.
this is at a different level. It's just a
Mm.
great thriller and delicious, and you just can't stop
Ooh.
reading it. And it's what
Ooh.
also is so great. It's fresh. I mean, I love books about bad husbands and bad wives and people in
Yes.
comas, and I've even written some in those categories. But this is so weirdly different than all of those, and so that makes it refreshing. You haven't read this one before.
Ooh, that is high praise, Kate White. High praise. Another thing I love about Jean's books is it's a love letter to New York City, a love letter to the Upper East Side. So I love that as well.
Yeah, and
Um,
this is not it's not there's touches in New York, but it certainly whether it takes place other places. And weirdly, one of the towns is near the town I was born in upstate New York. Though she's talking about a town just over the border in Vermont, so it was kind of
ooh.
haunting for me. I wrote to her afterwards and told her how much I loved it, and what made it weird was just there's these references to Rutland, Vermont. So it was almost like she was creeping into my mind and seeing things. And, I know, Rutland, Vermont, Kate White. So I'm going to put a little bit of Rutland in this book for you.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Oh, I love that. That's so cool. That's amazing. Okay, that's my new writer goal is to write the book that Kate White says, "How did you know, Sara DiVello? You got in my mind." And I'll just say, "Me and my crystal ball did our work, Kate White." I love that.
Sarah, you don't, you'll hook me regardless.
Okay, that's the gauntlet has been cast, and I accept the challenge. Emily says it must have been a relief to not write those sex scenes, since most mystery writers say they're very tough to get on the page. Was it a relief, Kate, or do you kind of miss writing the sexy stuff?
Well, what made it a little bit easier for me was working at Cosmo. You just got used to certain words, saying them
Mm.
aloud, discussing it with your staff, and bringing that into the magazine because Cosmo was primarily a magazine for young women, and
Mhm.
one of the big categories we covered was relationships and sexual relationships too. And our reader was Gen X, Gen Y, and they just sex was a very important glue in the relationship, and they weren't embarrassed talking about it to their friends, and they weren't embarrassed reading about it. So it was a very natural part of what we covered, and it
Mm.
made a comfort. I had a comfort level using that kind of terminology that we use in the magazine. I used to write the Cosmo cover lines with a couple of people on my staff, and I always told my kids when they were little, "Oh, mommy doesn't write those. No, we send the magazine to another location, and it's written by somebody else." And they laugh about that now, but they did not. That's what I used to say. So, but even though I felt comfortable, I I was happy not to have to bring it in.
Very interesting. Okay, well, the cat is officially out of the bag. Kate wrote the Cosmo cover lines. Everyone now knows, friends. The cover lines were written by Kate. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much for letting us know. I'm here for the behind the scenes. And let's see, just to make sure I'm not missing anything. Laurel is saying we aren't here for the sex, Kate. LOL. That's my dear
Thank
friend.
you, Carl. Thank you.
My dear friend and my fashion guru, Laurel. We've been friends for 25 years. She's the most incredible human being and fashionable, beautiful. Oh my God, that woman puts outfits together like I've never seen. Patricia says, please say the author's name. It is Jean Hanff Korelitz.
Yes.
Patricia, and I put it in the comments as well.
And it's really great, Patricia. I recommend it without hesitation.
Yay! So now we have the official recommendation of Kate White. This is fantastic. And I see, oh my gosh, we are over our time, everybody, because we're having so much fun. We're just chatting away. But I just want to let everyone know that Kate's incredible book, The Fiancee, is for sale today, and you can buy it through an independent bookstore. Tragically, one independent bookstore. Let's both hold them up. Let's both hold them up, Kate. The one independent bookstore a week has gone out of business during the pandemic. And today and every day, you can buy your copy of of the Fiancee and support an incredible independent bookstore, one of 3 dedicated mystery bookstores in the country, one of the oldest and most respected, and my personal favorite, Murder by the Book. So I just put the link in the comments.
What a fantastic place.
Oh, I love them, McKenna and John. They're so amazing. Emily's saying, I never saw the cover lines because the grocery store always had them covered up at the checkout line. Right. Emily, I was sneaking that in my cart and sneaking that in my bag all the way through college. I absolutely love it. Kate, you have been an incredible delight. Is there anything that you wish I'd asked? Anything you want to tell us before we sign off?
Thank you, Sarah. Thanks for letting me talk about the Fiancee. This is one of the best responses I've had from my readers of any book I've written. I think they like the fact that it's a thriller, but it's a whodunit, and it's a little bit fun too. So I hope anyone who hasn't read it will give it a try, because just one thing about it I would say is that it takes place in July. And I think it's always fun to read a book in the season that you're in, if the book is taking place then, because it just adds one more little element to it.
Yes, exactly. We can all relate to that steamy July heat, and we can only wish that we had the Keaton's pool to go jump in and go take a swim, and then Claire and Bonnie and her pink-haired helper to refresh us with the most beautiful, balanced, delicious buffet on the sideboard afterward, because I would be there camping out. And Kate, this book has earned incredible praise. Publishers Weekly calling it a skillfully constructed page turner, expert pacing, incredible characters readers love to hate, and an intelligent heroine make this a winner. White consistently entertains, and that is but one of many rave reviews. The Library Journal raving that this is a twisty family drama. I know everybody here loves twisty. So, and I could go on and on. You have gotten rave reviews from Megan Miranda, from Nerd Daily, from Amy Malloy. I'm posting all of these in the comments. So I could go on and on and on, but this book has earned this praise, and you are a master, as Publishers Weekly say, consistently entertaining us. So Kate White, thank you so much. Thank you everyone for joining us. So great to have you. Leslie saying thank you. Congratulations. Soon to be on the best sellers list, I'm sure. Absolutely. Laurel saying cannot wait to read it, Kate. Oh, Sharon would like to know if there's any autographed copies anywhere.
I think just because of the pandemic, that's hard to do. But Poison Pen has some in another great independent bookstore in Phoenix. They sent some to me to autograph, so they have some.
Okay, perfect. So you heard it here, Sharon. It's at the Poisoned Pen, another fabulous independent bookstore. Patricia is saying, thank you, ladies. You are delightful, Ms. White. Be safe, everyone. Patricia, thanks as always for joining us. Everyone, have a great day. We'll see you next time here on Mystery and Thrillers.
Thanks, Sarah.